In today's news, Thailand's anti-corruption body makes progress in the Thai Airways Rolls-Royce engine scandal. The four-day censure debate against the Prime Minister kicks off today, and more instances of the Thai government ignoring human rights. Not that anyone is surprised. All this is coming up in today's program.
Today's show is brought to you by Thaiger Property for all your real estate needs in Thailand. Link in the description below.
You're watching Thailand News Today, bringing you the latest top stories in Thailand and beyond. My name is Jet Gunther, and in our first story, Thailand's anti-corruption body names names over the Thai Airways Rolls-Royce engine scandal. Isra News says the Thai National Anti-Corruption Commission has declared it has grounds to support the allegation that former Finance Minister Thanong Phithiya broke the law during negotiations to buy Rolls-Royce engines for the new Airbus jets at the time. Mr. Thanong was serving as Thai Airways chairman and the airline's advisor at the time of the decisions. Rolls-Royce admitted in January of 2017 that it had bribed Thai government officials in the 80s and 90s so they would buy aircraft engines from the famous British jet engine manufacturer for Thai Airways. At the time, the British Serious Fraud Office found that Rolls-Royce had agreed to paying 254 million baht to individuals to secure a deal with the Thai government, who were majority shareholders of the airline at the time, to purchase Rolls-Royce Trent 800 engines for 6 Boeing 777 aircraft and Trent 500 engines for 7 Airbus A340 aircraft. The A340 aircraft would go on to be one of the most spectacular loss makers for the national airline. The NACC has already decided to formally accuse 10 out of 26 men linked to the Rolls-Royce bribery scandal. The NACC probe comes 5 years after Rolls-Royce admitted misconduct to the British Serious Fraud Office in 2017. At the time, it was revealed that the bribes reached over 1.25 billion baht and were paid to secure Thai Airways' purchase of the engines. Thai Airways never financially recovered from the huge outlay it made for the Rolls-Royce engine, and the scandal kicked off 2 decades of poor performance, followed by crippling losses. The 4-day censure debate kicks off today against the Thai Prime Minister and his cabinet ministers. The actual no-confidence motion will be put to the vote on Saturday after 4 days of drilling from opposition MPs. The Thai Prime Minister has survived 3 other no-confidence motions during his tenure at the top job. It will also be the last that can be scheduled with an election having to be called before March of 2023. The 4th censure motion brought against him and his government also has the least predictable outcome, with minor parties in the coalition openly canvassing votes against Prime Minister Prayut this time. The debate also follows a disastrous showing of Palang Pracharat candidates in both the recent Bangkok governor election and a by-election in northern Thailand 10 days ago. Moreover, 16 MPs from the Sethakit Thai Party pulled out of the government coalition just last week, vowing to vote against Prime Minister Prayut and the cabinet ministers targeted in the censure. In the last one, in 2021, former Deputy Agricultural Minister and convicted heroin trafficker Thamarat Promphao was ousted from his ministerial position and the inner circle, along with 20 other members of his faction, for plotting to vote with the opposition. Not for heroin trafficking, that part was okay. Now, as the leader of the Sethakit Thai Party, Thamarat has openly defied the Prime Minister and indicated his MPs will vote with the opposition in this censure debate. Another 16 MPs under the moniker Group of 16, including members of the Prime Minister's own Palang Pracharat Party, are also in doubt, with many of the MPs openly displaying their dismay of the current situation. But the Public Health Minister Anutin Charnvirakul says his Phum Chai Thai Party will continue to show full support for the current Prime Minister and Cabinet. The Phum Chai Thai Party won 51 seats and has bolstered its ranks to 60 following defections from other parties. But Anutin's power base could command up to 80 votes that he could call on if the vote became tight. Deputy Prime Minister and veteran politician Wisanu Krungam says the opposition parties will need at least 235 MPs to vote against the Prime Minister. He claims, as the number stacks up leading into today's debates, that they only have 206 votes. There are 45 hours allocated to the censure debate. 30 of those hours will be dedicated to questioning the Prime Minister and his cabinet about their handling of the pandemic in Thailand and the rushed decriminalization of the Happy Plant to appease their Phum Jai Thai coalition partners. Human Rights Watch said today that Thai authorities should immediately drop charges and release pro-democracy activists detained for insulting the monarchy. Two of the activists, Netiporn Sanay Sangkhom and Nathanit Duong Musit, have been on a hunger strike since June to protest their pre-trial detention at Bangkok's Central Women Correctional Institution. On July the 18th, the two activists collapsed during a witness examination at the Southern Bangkok Criminal Court due to severe stomach pains and fatigue. John Sifton, Asia Advocacy Director at Human Rights Watch, said that Thai authorities should drop the politically motivated cases against Netiporn, Nathanit, and others charged with their peaceful protests to reform the monarchy. He added that the Thai government is harshly punishing these activists by unnecessarily holding them in prolonged pre-trial detention instead of releasing them prior to trial. Netiporn and Nathanit have regularly advocated reforming the monarchy. The authorities have charged them with various criminal offenses, including lèse majesté, for conducting a public opinion poll on February the 8th about royal motorcades. Since May the 3rd, the authorities have held them in pre-trial detention, and that detention has been repeatedly extended. Human Rights Watch said that holding those charged with lèse majesté in pre-trial detention violates their rights under international human rights law. The International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, which Thailand ratified in 1996, encourages bail for criminal suspects. Sifton added that the Thai government should permit peaceful expression of all viewpoints, including questions about the monarchy. It should engage with UN experts and others about amending the lèse majesté law to bring it into compliance with international human rights standards. But meanwhile, the number of lèse majesté cases in Thailand has significantly increased in the past year. Officials have charged more than 200 people with lèse majesté crimes in relation to various activities at pro-democracy rallies or comments on social media. A new report has revealed that dozens of Thai democracy activists were targeted by a spyware program called Pegasus during the height of anti-government protests over the last 2 years. The joint report by the Thai NGO iLaw, Digital Reach, and the Citizen Lab claims that the phones of up to 30 activists, academics, lawyers, and NGO workers, mostly connected to civil rights organizations, were affected, spanning 2020 and 2021. The findings originated from notifications sent by Apple to Thai activists that they had been targeted with the spyware in November of 2021. Amnesty International Security Lab independently confirmed 5 of the cases in the report through forensic analysis. Etienne Menier, technologist at Amnesty International, said that we can now officially add Thailand to the growing list of countries where people peacefully calling for change, expressing an opinion, or discussing government policies may trigger invasive surveillance with a profound toll on an individual's freedom of expression, privacy, and sense of security. He added that instead of listening and engaging with these protesters, academics, and human rights defenders, intrusive surveillance has been used to harass, intimidate, and target them. These revelations are a shocking example of just how low authorities might stoop to control peaceful dissent. Amnesty states that countries have obligations under international law to not only respect human rights, but to protect them from abuse by third parties, including private companies. Amnesty International Security Lab uncovered instances of targeting using Pegasus in Morocco, Western Sahara, El Salvador, the occupied Palestinian territories, Poland, and Spain. Meanwhile, NSO Group, the company behind the spyware Pegasus, claims that it only sells products to government intelligence and law enforcement agencies. Whatever you say to sleep at night. And that's all for our report from Thailand News Today. The show will be back tomorrow. Meanwhile, have a wonderful day, and you're now up to date on the Thaiger.